What if the players stop playing? Hear me out here. In the last few years, especially in the last 12 months, more annoyance and more pushback has come from the footballers towards the never-ending push on this match schedule. Usually, you'd only really hear this from the managers. However, in the last year or so, we've heard more and more players come out regarding the match scheduling and what is expected from them. Now, this topic is a tough one to go through because depends on what kind of person you are. There's a large amount of people that when you speak of this topic reply with, well, they earn a ton of money and they have an amazing lifestyle, so who cares what they think? Do your job. People have it worse. And I get that. I get why people have that thought process, especially if they're living a life which maybe they don't particularly enjoy. So they're thinking, how dare you complain about your luxury lifestyle, enjoying a dream that anyone could possibly dream of. It's like if you hear, let's say, a YouTuber, a really popular YouTuber that makes a ton of money, complain about how hard his job is and he's not got that much time to be sociable and to go out with friends often because he's always working. You don't want to hear that from someone that you know is living a pretty prestigious lifestyle. No one wants to hear you complain. And I get that. However, there is a serious possibility that from the players' unions, there could be a strike within the next year or so if things do not change. So comment down below your thoughts on the actual risk of a player strike. And what do you think about it? And how do you see the players? So have they got a fair point? Or do you think they should just simply get on with it? Like, subscribe, and Mozilla Designs for the best football prints, all made by myself. We've got about 800 prints in there now. I try to cover every single club, especially in the EFL, Premier League, even non-league, and the Scottish Leagues too. So use code Vizeh for 15% off all items, and let's get into it. Rodri, in the interview against Inter Milan for their Champions League game tonight, on being asked on the topic of increasing demands expected of Europe's top elite players, his response was, "We're close to strike action. It's the general opinion of the players, and if it keeps this way, we'll have no other option." Now, is this simply just hot smoke? Is he just having an empty threat, showcasing his annoyances? Well, this has also come from the likes of Bernardo Silva and many managers alike, Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, whatever else. However, there has been action behind the scenes that adds to this. Fundamentally, footballers at the top level believe too much is being asked of them, meaning that they are much more at risk of injury and could potentially harm and damage their career for no other reason than to make more money for other corporations. Now, typically you hear City speak about this a lot because they typically play more games because they always go further in most competitions. In this current campaign, due to the addition of the revamped Club World Cup, this means that in this season, there's a chance that they could play 75 games of competitive football. On top of the expanded Club World Cup, also is the expanded Champions League. With these expanded competitions alongside international competitions too, like the Nations League, on top of friendlies, on top of the actual qualifiers, on top of the actual major tournaments, it is getting a bit much at the top level. Now, of course, if you're a player that's not really in any competitions that's in Europe or not really going far in cup competitions, it seems like it's still the usual. And I guess this is more for you, this is more a question for you personally. Do you think because City are so good, because they have also so much more money as well, can they just deal with it better to just simply get a bigger squad? Should they get a bigger squad to deal with the bigger schedule when they are so good and they make so much money anyway? Because they get paid more money, they get rewarded well for being part of these competitions. Is that a fair thing to say? That's your opinion to decide on. Another quote by Rodri, "It is too much. Not everything is about money or marketing. It is about quality on show. When I am not tired, I perform better. And according to Rodri and many others, this is a very similar feeling led by the top elite players within the PFA. Don't forget as well, on top of that, they've got extended pre-seasons going away to America, going away to Australia. Don't forget, for example, Tottenham Hotspur, after they finished their season, within a couple of days flew out to Australia to play some games over there. So when the season was over, they did a end of season tour alongside a typical pre-season tour. Let's talk about the union. So the PFA is the English Professional Footballers Association, which is, you probably definitely know, and the other union is the UNFP, which is the Union of Footballers in France. And both of these massive unions that has thousands of footballers within it have orchestrated a response towards these major organizations. In July of this year, they have lodged a formal complaint, a legal complaint towards FIFA, challenging the legality of the governing body by FIFA or UEFA by unilaterally setting football's calendar in a completely unmanageable and unsustainable fashion. And it wasn't only the unions, it was also European nations, including the Premier League, with La Liga and FIFA Pro Europe, filing a formal complaint to the European Commission against FIFA as well. And you may be saying, why now? Why is it happening now? Why is there a massive uproar now? Well, the Club World Cup, the revamped version with a lot more teams, a lot more games, is what is quarter to be the straw that broke the camel's back. And they are simple in their response. Enough is enough when it comes to basically draining every single ounce that they can out of these footballers. And again, you may say they get paid really well. This is their job. They should simply deal with it. They're living everyone's dreams. And I can't really argue back with that, because in some ways I also agree. But I do think there's a healthy medium here where we also can remember that they are humans. And it is very, very strenuous in your body to play this amount of top level elite football and be expected to deal with it time and time and time again. And again, you may say, well, just have a bigger squad so that you can rotate better. And you may have a shout there. You may have a point there. Maybe you're not meant to play your best team in every single game possible. And that's why you got a squad. And I've seen that argument made too. So let's say that a strike does happen. How does that happen? How can that possibly happen? Well, this would have to be coordinated between the PFA or FIFA Pro or the Union of Footballers in France. This would have to be a coordinated effort. And this would have to be an effort where the majority of people agree to it. A ballot of sorts. Now, at the current moment in time, the PFA, they got over 5,000 footballers in their membership, and what they would need to do to support a strike is to get a ballot to ask every single member would they be behind it. And if it is a majority of people that would strike and agree to this, then that is the decision that they would have to make. The main issue is this is serious, because this would actually impact a lot of money. So if any competitions does get impacted, the Premier League, the EFL, Champions League, UEFA, FIFA, whatever, legal action is guaranteed. Now, the PFA has been adamant that they've been trying their hardest to reach an agreement with these governing bodies for years. And at this stage, the PFA's chief executive, Maheta Malongo, is very adamant that they are reaching breaking point here. Quoted, "We've tried our best to reach a diplomatic solution. Legal action is always a defeat to everyone. But sometimes when adult people cannot reach a solution, you need to have a third party deciding for you." Now, has this ever happened before? Well, it has been threatened before, all the way back in 2001, between the PFA again and the annoyancers with the Premier League when it comes to the broadcast deals, feeling that they weren't getting a real decent slice of the pie here and feeling that they've been took advantage of. And they had a ballot back then of a 99% of players favouring boycotting any televised fixture. This was planned for the strike to happen on December the 1st, 2001, where you had the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson, Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Ryan Giggs, and many footballers. I mean, 99% was backing the strike. And after alarm bells were ringing that they were actually serious, they had an emergency meeting where they got a deal which they felt was satisfactory, and it was resolved in the end, and a strike did not occur. Now, strikes have happened in other sports, particularly in American sports. This happened as recently as 2011 for the NBA, where about 5 months there was a strike, and this always typically led to the player unions having to strike for a better deal. So this is where we're at right now, where we actually have got a genuine, serious threat of players refusing to play. And this isn't simply due to a lack of pay, it's simply due to a stress upon themselves and threatening their career. As many footballers, if they're playing football at a young age, a lot of football, this can really damage and harm their future. More and more injuries are occurring, and if you're a young player, you're being asked to play a lot of football very early on, and how can that impact you in the future? I mean, one example that I can think of on top of my head is really Ansu Fati at Barcelona. Had a fantastic start, was playing way too many games at a young age, and now look at him, he's really not even involved because he's simply not the same player that he was due to injuries. Like the likes of Vizeh James, is that part of it? I'm not too sure. Maybe some players are just unfortunate. But I do definitely believe that there are some players that will have their careers drastically impacted by the amount of football they're playing now. Bukayo Saka is one which is said a lot as well, that potentially because of the nature of his role, being injured and being like kicked around a lot more often, that will only play detriment to what he can do further on in his career. And if that does happen, that is a real shame, and players do need to be protected. No matter how much money they make, they're still human. So this is what could be happening, and I feel like it was interesting to talk about. So tell me down below your thoughts, like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. See ya.